drop the lights too?
You have to do it from down there.
No.
The lights are back there.
Oh, behind you.
The switches are back here.
You know how to do it? Go, Bryce, go. Bryce is back there. There we go.
And then there's a switch behind the stage near the dressing room. They don't want to shut that off.
Go, Bryce. Yeah, you can. Your eyes will adjust in a second. This is the extra entertainment. Can you see? No. Yeah, go turn that one back on. They can't see it. All right, we're going to leave that on so they can actually read. So I want to welcome everyone this morning. I have a terrible cold, so hopefully you still can hear me. This is the culmination of the 8th grade's Faces of Windsor project. It's part of our second unit with a theme of a rural community. We started the year looking at urban communities and the culture and writing that come out of the cities. And the second unit allows us to contrast that with rural communities and writing and film and poetry and culture that comes out of small towns. And it's perfect because it really allows the students to look at the town that they go to school in and the town that they've grown up in. And a part of that we started last year was the Faces of Windsor project, which gets them out into the community, meeting and interviewing different members of the Windsor, Brownsville community that have been here in some cases most of their lives. In some cases, some of the people you'll hear about today have only been here a few years, but that all make up Windsor and are part of making this community the community that it is and the place that these folks have grown up in, and will help to shape them. So you'll hear from 2 different classes today. This is the first period class, and when they're done, you'll hear from our second period class. And they did a great job this year, really went out, and we have a really diverse group of residents, which is pretty great. So I will turn it over to them. It's a little difficult for them to see, to be able to get our photos up there on the screen and to have them be able to see what they've written. So you'll have to bear with them, and hopefully you'll be able to hear them from the microphone. So I'll pass this off to Reese, and it'll just go right down the line. And if we can, we'll have applause after each person. That would be great.
Barbie Lee Shambo was born on January 4th, 1968. She was one of 9 siblings. Her family didn't have a large income, but they were happy and safe. She has lived in Cornish for almost 50 years. Right after high school, Barbie got a job at a company called 12% and worked there for almost 20 years. Later, she came to Windsor in search of a job. She found one in the kitchen at State Street School. Later, she was moved out of the kitchen onto the maintenance staff. Though she has never lived in Windsor, she is a very important part of the community. She loves working with the kids every day. When I asked her what her favorite memory was, she said that she couldn't choose. She makes so many every day. Barbie has made a lasting impression at the school. She makes every person who walks through the door feel welcome. She carries herself with a joy and kindness in everything she does. She says hello to everyone and goes out of her way to make others' days better. Barbie does everything from walking people to class to helping younger kids get breakfast. Barbie works very hard and leaves little time for herself, but when she does get time, she likes to go horseback riding, spend time outside, and meet new people. When she gets older, she'd like to move to Arizona and be able to enjoy all of her favorite things in a warm place. Barbie makes the school a better place to be, and that's why she is a good representation of Windsor in our community.
Owen Campbell was born in 1979 and grew up in a town a little bigger than Windsor called Morrisville, Vermont. He is not only scared of cats in deep water, he has also been a Frisbee golf champ for 3 years. As a young child, his dream job was to be a photographer or journalist for National Geographic. Right after he graduated from high school, he went to school at Lafayette and got a master's degree in education. He's not married and allegedly has no children. One of his favorite jobs was being a park ranger because he got a big truck and went fishing and bird watching every day. On occasion, he asked visitors for food after chatting them up. He moved to Wyoming and had a great time snowboarding and mountain biking. One time he hit a huge jump and fractured his elbow. On the same day, he was the best man at his friend's wedding. He would end up returning to Wyoming 6 times and 1 time for a year. After Wyoming, he was offered a job teaching in either Canada or Windsor. He chose Windsor to be closer to his grandmother's farm. The first day he came to Windsor, he went to introduce himself to his neighbor, but she was talking to a landscaper, so he waited until she was done, but then she kicked him off her land. So he went down to rent a video and put the movie Clerks, and they wouldn't let him rent it because he had no bills or landline. So he went downtown to the town office to register to vote, but even after that, they wouldn't let him rent the video, and that was his intro to Windsor. When he was a kid, he always went mountain biking and running around in the woods. He would always tell his mom these crazy stories of where he went and what he did. It always freaked her out. They decided to make a deal that for him not to ever tell her where he was going and what he was doing. One time, he and his friend decided to rent a canoe and go down the Lamoille River while there's still ice clumps in it. They ended up going 2 towns down from where they started. When his dad found out, he hung up the telephone after they called him and refused to come and get them, so they ended up hitchhiking home. He had all sorts of adventures. For example, he got lost in the woods 3 times. One time, his parents called search and rescue to go and find him in the middle of winter. He had frostbite on his feet so bad he ended up in the emergency room the next day. If he could travel anywhere in the world, he would travel to the mountains of Chile and Argentina, also known as Patagonia. According to him, he likes to wear Patagonia shoes because he wants to go there.
Paul Moykins moved to Windsor when he was around 9 years of age with his mom, dad, 3 brothers, and his 1 sister. He previously lived in Philadelphia, Charlestown, South Carolina, Newport, Island Pond, and Canaan, Vermont before he moved to Windsor. He had a very happy childhood living with his great family. When he was a child, he was a very outdoorsy type who liked to hunt, fish, hike, camp, explore caves, and participate in Boy Scouts. When he was a child, he always was interested in traveling and doing something in the field of electronics. Paul attended Windsor High School and graduated in 1978. Right after high school, Paul went to the Navy. He also attended college at Lyndon State College. After he got out of the Navy, he's had many jobs in his childhood, such as a photographer, darkroom technician, and a photo editor for the Windsor Chronicles from 1976 to 1978. When he became an adult, he tried his hand at even more occupations, such as a naval weather observer, photographer, combat engineer, and animatronics technician. Paul Moykins is now 57 years old and is an alarm technician. He likes electronics, playing guitar, shooting, fishing, hunting, and camping. I asked Paul if he ever regretted part of his life, and he responded, tons of it, but it's better to look forward than to dwell on your past. Paul offers much to the community, such as Civil Air Patrol and supporting his children's school activities. He has 2 children named Emmett and Vincent Moykins, and a wife named Mairead Moykins. When I asked Paul if he would change his life, he said, if I had ever had to do it over again, I would have stayed in the Navy until I retired, at 38 to 40 years old. I would have also started a family a little sooner. My first child wasn't born until I was 39. When I asked Paul if he would ever pick somewhere else to live, he answered, I still could. There are a lot of places that I could live, but my family is here.
Sabrina Campney is a very important face in Windsor, although she hasn't always lived in Windsor. She grew up in Manchester, Vermont with a large family. She has 5 other siblings, 2 sisters and 3 brothers. As you can imagine, there was never a dull moment in that house. For the most part, she liked her siblings. Sabrina attended 2 different schools growing up, Long Trail School and Burton Academy. Overall, she enjoyed school and had a very strong passion for math. Even in middle school, she loved math and dreamed of being a math teacher. When she finished high school, she attended Linden State College for 2 years. Her term there was cut short as she was homesick and needed to come home because of family issues. Meanwhile, before she came to Windsor, she had many interesting jobs, such as a store clerk. She worked in home health care. She was in and out of school substituting. She was even a nanny for some time. When she finally came to Windsor, she was always helping in the school and eventually fulfilled her dream as a math teacher. If she's not teaching, you'll most likely find her on the field or in the court taking pictures as a sports photographer. She's been taking pictures for many years and has many pictures. To find somewhere to put all these pictures, she likes to scrapbook them. She says that she is now very pleased with her life and she'd do nothing to change it. Sabrina loves where she lives and the people she lives around and wouldn't leave.
Wynn Townsend is 52 years old, and he's lived in Windsor all of his life. He grew up in this town with his sister Martha and went to Windsor High School. He played football and basketball. He ran track as well. When I asked him if he had any sports stories to tell me, he said that he played basketball until he was a junior, but after that he played in amateur league for 4 years with Kyrie Irving's dad. He told me that the rec was his high school court because they didn't have the gym yet. And when he was a kid, he wanted to be a fighter pilot, but he is now a mail carrier. When he was in high school, he was a lifeguard at the Kennedy's Pond, and straight out of high school, he went to Boston University. He's married with Karen Townsend, a school nurse and health teacher, and has 2 kids who both live in California. And when I asked him if he could live anywhere else, he said he would want to live in California, only because his kids live there. When I asked him if he had any pets, he rolled his eyes and said, my wife has a dog that she brought home without telling me. So he doesn't help take care of him. When I asked about his kids, he said his son wanted to play baseball, so he took him in the backyard to play catch, but instead of throwing the ball to his glove, he repeatedly threw it at him so he would get hit by the ball and know what it felt like to get hit. When he was a kid, the town had so many shops and workers and they had no traffic lights, so they had to bring cops down to direct traffic at every shift change. Wynn enjoys reading, which is why he misses the bookstore that used to be Mr. G's. He likes to golf, watch movies and TV, and coach basketball. He has coached for 22 years and is currently my coach. Wynn has a big role in our community and has been part of this town for his entire life.
Shane Tansey was born on July 27, 1989, in Windsor, Vermont. When Shane was first 5, he moved to Tashkent, Uzbekistan until he was 8 years old, then moved back to Windsor for 1 year before moving to Bangladesh for 3 more. At the age of 12, he came back to Windsor in 2000, where he graduated Windsor High School. Shane went to UVM for a degree in mechanical engineering. Shane graduated in 2011 and moved back to Windsor, where he was now. Shane worked at Selden Gear in Windsor, where he went on trips to China and India before they closed. Shane now works at Fujifilm Dramatics and makes printer cartridges. Shane has also helped the school by coaching basketball, football, and has umpired baseball. Shane is 28 years old now and is married and has 1 kid.
Ruth Hewitt was born in Bangor, Maine in 1932. She met her husband while she was going to nursing school in Boston. Come to find out, her husband Floyd grew up in Windsor and graduated from Windsor High School. Soon after their college graduation, they moved up on Hunt Road at Floyd's parents' house where they lived on the farm. Floyd's homestead was located on the back roads of Windsor on Hewitt Road, which is just off Hunt Road. Ruth had the opportunity to work at Mount Scottney Hospital. She enjoyed being the head nurse in the nursing home at the hospital. She continued working until her retirement in 1998. Ruth and Floyd have 3 children. They all live in different states. Kathy, the oldest, lives in North Carolina and is a dentist. Susan, a school nurse, lives in Connecticut. and their youngest son, Matt, lives in Massachusetts within a few miles from Gillette Stadium. Matt now works for the Heinz Company as a salesman.
Taylor Carter is 23 and he grew up in Heartland and he still lives in the same house today. Taylor went to Windsor High School and graduated in 2012. When Taylor was younger, he wanted to be a veterinarian, but he is now working as a property manager. Other jobs he has had is working as a groundskeeper at the golf course and in construction. His hobbies are making music and drawing. Taylor had a great childhood and he said he was really spoiled. Taylor said he wouldn't change any part of his life because he doesn't believe in changing your life. There may be a reason you are who you are. He said maybe he's only saying that because he hasn't had many struggles. Taylor doesn't regret any part of his life and says regret is a bad thing and he tries not to.
Mrs. Keeney is 31 years old. She grew up right in York, Maine, right on the beach. She rode bikes and loved to rollerblade. She has a brother, his name is Ben. She said that he was just your little annoying little brother that I may have tormented at times. Now he's wonderful and has become a PE teacher now. A funny story that she remembered that she made her brother Ben eat styrofoam covered in mud and told him it was chocolate. She also remembered as a kid she was too short to reach the light switch, so her dad made her stick made a stick with a hole on the end so she could turn the lights off. She has a daughter named Nellie. She is almost a year old now. She is very funny and happy. Miss Keeney loves to play hockey, having dance parties with Mr. Keeney and Nellie, and she also loves to do DIY projects. She went to Plymouth State College, and she has been a teacher for 9 years, and next year will be 10. She doesn't live in the town of Windsor. She lives in Claremont. She said Windsor is a small town, but she loves it because Windsor has good breakfast restaurants. She also likes that you can walk to most places in town. She enjoys the history that we have in the town of Windsor. The Windsor School is the best school ever, she says. Great students and great teachers, and everyone is hardworking. Before Windsor, she was teaching art to kids in pre-K and up to 4th grade over at Mascoma. Now she's here at Windsor and she's planning to stay.
In the photo, Mike Frazier is wearing his Windsor football shirt to support his son Duncan. He also has a daughter named Jasmine. Mike grew up in Windsor and Wethersfield, Vermont. Mike has 3 brothers and 1 sister. When Mike graduated, he did not go on to college. His favorite thing about the town of Windsor is how supportive the town is of the school system and sports system. His favorite part about the school is the kids and how he can support the kids in their sports. Some hobbies of his are working at the restaurant, following his kids as they grow up. If he was given the choice to live anywhere but Windsor, he said that he never thought about it and would stay in Windsor. If he didn't own a restaurant, he would probably be a police officer. His favorite part about owning the restaurant is getting to meet new people and seeing the regulars. He knew that he wanted to own a restaurant 5 years ago when the opportunity appeared. His favorite sport to watch is football. His favorite sports teams are the Patriots and the Red Sox. When he was younger, his dad would come home from work in his blue truck, from where his brother and him would play after school. They could see him coming up the road and they would run to the house to meet him. I think Mike is a huge part of the Windsor community because he has 2 kids in our school who he supports in sports. Also, you can't live in Windsor without hearing about Frazier's Place. If you come to Windsor, you'll most likely end up going to Frazier's. Frazier's isn't only a great place to eat, it is a great place to work.
Julie Aylward has been living in Windsor for 30 years with her husband and 2 children who are now grown. The picture shows her and her daughter, Lucy. She has been the theater teacher here at Windsor High School since 1997 and is one of the longest remaining and most loved teachers here. When asked about why she loves living here and has stayed for so long, she replied by saying she loves how beautiful it is here and how the people are kind and funny and come together to support the best efforts of others. Miss A has taught and affected so many people here at the school. She says one of her favorite parts of her job is being able to get the opportunity to teach different generations of students. In her time here, she has observed that something really interesting about this area is that talent seems to run in generations, and she really enjoys being able to watch children acting just like their parents once did. Before she came here, she traveled to different places all around the world, acting in plays, television, and radio with different theater troupes or just on her own. She has lived in Canada and the United Kingdom as well as here in the United States, but she has lived in Windsor for the longest amount of time, and she says she had no idea she would ever be lucky enough to find such a great place to live. As anyone who has ever had her as a teacher knows, she is an amazing, if somewhat crazy person that is very good at what she does, and we are very lucky to have her here.
The picture behind me is of Bill Gokey and his son, a 28-year-old Windsor graduate of 2008. He went to Wethersfield till 8th grade and then went to Windsor. He works at Dartmouth College and loves his son very much, although he is more than that to this community, because he is known for coaching. I met Bill when I was 11 at my first practice at Windsor. He was my coach, and the first impression he had of me was when I walked up to him and said, "Hi, my name is Steven, but you can call me Jimmy, because I like Jimmy Neutron." Bill was my first coach in Windsor and has coached me every year since I have been here. He coaches for the school and for the rec. He has made me a better player in football and basketball and has seen me grow. He means a lot to me, not just me, but my friends, the people I have played with, and the community. I don't see him as a coach. I see him more as a friend. Thank you, Bill, for making me a better person, and I hope you coach me till I graduate.
When she was younger, Miss Eaker woke up every day to a 6 o'clock reveille, played by her father. She loved dancing and being a princess in her younger days. For her free time, she went camping and did lots of four-wheeling. She went to 2 schools. In her younger days, she attended Fort Anne Central School. When she got older, she attended Granville High for middle school and high school. After that, she went a 3-week trip to Billings, Montana. She later attended college in sunny Adirondack for criminal justice. Shockingly, she got an internship for the FBI. After some time passed, she realized it just wasn't the position for her, and then she went to school at Castleton University. One of the interesting experiences she had was during Game 4 of the 2007 World Series baseball game between the Red Sox and the Colorado Rockies. She was able to watch the game at Stratton Mountain with former Red Sox player Tom Seaver and his family. Lastly, she would have wished to stay home before she left for college. I enjoyed the time interviewing Miss Eaker. She is a wonderful middle school teacher and taught me so much through the 2 years I've been in her class.
Susan Fonsby was born in 1964. She grew up in a small town outside of Lawrence, Massachusetts, with her 2 sisters. She moved to Windsor when she was 26 and had 2 children that went to Windsor High School, Tori and Katie. She later divorced their father. Both daughters are now grown up and have moved out. Today, she lives with her husband, Chris, and her dog, George. Susan enjoys reading, cooking, and traveling to different places. She plans to do a lot more of that when she is retired. Susan used to dream of being a flight attendant since she'd get free flights. She actually wanted to do many things. She has a degree in psychology since she wanted to be a psychiatrist. And she used to work in a research lab. Now, Susan is a 6th grade teacher at Indian River. Susan lives next door to me. She has been in my life as long as I can remember. She has always let us sled into her yard in the winter. Whenever I walk around the neighborhood fundraising, she always donates the most. Whenever she sees me running, she waves. Every Halloween, she sets aside an entire goodie bag for my sisters and I. I know what you're thinking. How is your neighbor a face of Windsor? Nobody in this room even knows who she is. But that's the thing. You probably do. You have probably seen her at Price Chopper, at Cumbies, or around town. She hasn't done anything hugely important, but she doesn't need to. She is a face of Windsor. You are a face of Windsor. We all are, every person in this room, in this town. Good people like Susan make up this friendly community. So next time you want to know who our faces of Windsor are, think of your friends, your family, your neighbors. Go downtown and look around. Who do you see? That's your answer. Windsor would be nothing without its people.
Rebecca Bethel has been a resident of Windsor for only a few years after moving in with her husband, Stephen. She has two sisters who live in Florida and one brother who lives in New Hampshire. She is the eldest of 4 children. She has 2 children of her own and 2 stepchildren, all under the age of 15. She currently works at the VA in White River Junction as an occupational health and wellness nurse. She is currently 33 years of age and was only 18 when she had her eldest child. When she was a child, she knew that she wanted to be a nurse and a mother. She went through the grueling years of college at Clemson College in South Carolina, where she lived with her young daughter and ex-husband. She owns 2 dogs, both Shih Tzus, just adding to her already large family. She is known to some for being smart, outgoing, and funny. It has been told by many, especially her patients, that whenever she walks into a room, everyone's moods just get a bit brighter. One of her favorite stories to tell is during the birth of her daughter, where her husband was drinking a McDonald's orange juice, and she yelled at him, "Stop drinking your freaking orange juice," and rubbed my back. It was understandable, as she had been in labor for over 30 hours and was a very hungry woman. Then, with her second child, he was asleep at the first part of the process. Also understandable, as he had worked the night shift the day before. She is my mother, and I have learned a bit more through this project.
Kennedy Michael Hall was born in 1993 in Ethiopia. Kennedy had heart problems. In order for him to live, he had to go to America and have surgery. Kennedy was adopted and brought to America by his new family. When Kennedy got his surgery, the doctor told him he couldn't do anything active. Kennedy went to school at Heartland Elementary. He was being bullied for being black. Kids were calling him names. Kennedy told them to stop, and a certain kid would not stop, so Kennedy threw him through a window. When I went to Heartland, I would always look at the window and why there was so much tape on the window. Kennedy started going to Windsor after that. He was a troublemaker, but when he got to 9th grade, he decided to change it all. He joined the cross-country team in track. After Kennedy graduated from Windsor, he went to Lyndon State College. He continued to do track and cross-country. Kennedy wanted to help special needs people and help people get fit. So he started training his cross-country coach's son. He still trains and runs races with him. Before he graduated, Kennedy won the Man of the Year in Vermont. He goes to schools all across Vermont, tells kids his story. Kennedy started his own business. His training camp is called Going the Distance with Kennedy. Not only did he start his own business, he started working with special needs people and riding buses with them. Recently, he started working at the White River Car Wash with my grandfather. Kennedy has taught me to never give up on my dreams and to always strive for my goals.
Miss Ferrier has lived in Windsor for 43 years and graduated from here in 1997. She still lives in Windsor and has 3 kids, all grown up. She was principal in 2012 to 2015. Then she went to Connecticut to become a math teacher. This year, she came back to be a high school math teacher and a middle school soccer coach. Being a coach and a teacher was a little difficult due to time and scheduling, but she figured it out in about a month. When she was principal, I never got to know her, but this year I got to know her a little better during the soccer season because I played on the middle school soccer team. Unfortunately, my season ended with an injury, but she still supported me and saw me as part of the team. I thank her for that. In a time of need, it's nice to have people besides my family see me for me and not the injury. That's why I picked Miss Ferrier for Faces of Windsor.
Can we just give the entire first group a round of applause? All right, we're going to take a short intermission while we switch groups, give the 7th grade a chance to get up, stand up, and move around a little bit. Don't leave, though.
Hello.
Was born in 1954 in New London, New Hampshire. She has been living in Windsor all her life, and she is 63 years old. She says that she had a pretty normal childhood and can remember things like Girl Scouts and going to church groups that her family was a part of. She has 3 sisters and 1 brother. Her dream job as a child was to work with kids in some way, either in a school system or owning her own preschool or kindergarten. She says that school was not very difficult for her. She went to school in Windsor from 1st grade through 8th. Then she went to St. Mary's School in Claremont from 9th grade to 11th. She came back to Windsor for her senior year. She graduated from Windsor High School in 1972 and went straight to college. She went to college for 2 years. When she came back to Windsor, she started working with children in early education. I remember her working at the after-school program at Windsor Elementary School when I was a part of it. She would always help me and the other kids with their homework. Currently, she works at Windsor Early Childhood Education Center, which is where my 3-year-old sister goes to preschool. Some other jobs that she had was working at the different grocery stores in Windsor and being a waitress at the Windsor House when it was a restaurant. She has 2 sons and a husband. Her pet cat is named Izzy. She says that her main hobby is her job because she loves working with children. She also sews and knits. The biggest change she has seen in Windsor is the growth of the town. She remembers different stores, and she does not remember the rec center. She says she would have not picked anywhere else to live. She and her husband built a house here in 1990 and plan to stay here for the rest of their lives.
Miss Amy went straight out of high school and wasn't ready for college yet, so she worked in a kitchen as a prep cook and dishwasher. She hoped to leave a warm smile and helping hand to the elders. When she was young, she wanted to be a professional singer and dancer. Her current job is a paraprofessional at Windsor High School. The majority of her life, she has been living in Windsor. She came to Windsor because her family lives here. She came to school mainly in Windsor and CV for college. Miss Amy has a sister and brother. They are younger and has a Maine Coon cat named Max and a chinchilla named Kiku. Miss Amy is 37 years old. She has a degree in science and plans to go back to college when her daughter Cicely graduates high school. Her childhood was good. She played outside a lot, playing jump rope and listened to music. She says that it's pretty great right now because she worked hard to get where she is. She wished she did go to college straight out of high school so she could make more money and take care of her family. She has been in the community for a while because a lot of people know her family. She overcame her fear of driving and has only had her driver's license for 1.5 years. She really loves to sing and dance and loves to spend time with her daughter Cicely. Miss Amy graduated in 1998. Her other job was assistant of kitchen manager. She also worked with a lot of elders in hospice and dementia care. She lives here because she takes care of her grandfather and her mom. If she did not live here, she would want to live in Boston or New York. She learned to appreciate more as she gets older.
The person I have chosen for my project is Tiffany Casano. She's definitely one of the faces of Windsor for the role that she plays in our community. The principal of State Street School and Windsor Junior Senior High School. She grew up in both Florida and Vermont as she moved a lot between those states. She attended the University of Florida for her undergraduate studies and Castleton University for her graduate studies. She began work at Windsor Junior Senior High and State Street School in the 2013 to 2014 year, starting off as the assistant principal for 2 years before becoming the principal. In terms of her involvement, she was involved in advisory, coffee houses, flexible pathways, and personal learning plan, or PLP. And that's just to name a few. Her inspiration for becoming a principal was a principal from Rutland City Public Schools she worked with named Diane Wolk, who Ms. Casano quotes as being a dynamic principal who always puts students first. In addition to Diane Wolk as her inspiration, she chose to become a principal because she cares about the learning and welfare of children. I asked her what her hardships in her career were, and surprisingly, it's the hard work involved in being a principal. She says, and I quote, "If people think it looks easy, then I know I've done my job well because there are so many layers of complexity involved." Ms. Casano says that her greatest achievement in life, other than becoming principal, is to overcome adversity and never lose sight of what she values. In the near future, she looks forward to see how Windsor evolves over the next couple of years. They may be wondering, what would Ms. Casano's career be if she wasn't a principal? The answer is that she would like to be a teacher of sorts, like a sports coach or a professor. Even without her involvement as principal, and even if she didn't become suitable and she went with a teacher or coach, she will always be one of the faces of Windsor.
Amy Bellamer is a 37-year-old woman with 2 children named Tristan and Taryn. She went to school here in Windsor and graduated in 1998. When she was in school, she played basketball, field hockey, softball, and cheerleading. She lived in Windsor almost her whole life, except for that she lived in Newport, New Hampshire for 2 years. I asked her if she would change any part of her life, and she told me that if she got the chance, she would change some parts of her life, but keep some parts the same. I also asked her if she regrets parts of her life, and she said yes. Her hobbies include reading, crocheting, baking, and decorating homes. Amy has had 2 serious injuries in her life, including a back injury in September of 2015 and a knee injury in February of 2006. She has 2 siblings. She has an older sister and a younger brother. Amy said that they were like all normal siblings. They would fight, but in the end, they would always love each other. Amy has never been outside of the USA before, but the farthest place she's been is Springfield, Missouri. Her past jobs include working in restaurants as a waitress, types of cooking jobs, types of cleaning jobs, and she has worked for a nursing home. When Amy was younger, she wanted to be a veterinarian. Her current jobs are a Cedar Hill administrative assistant, janitor at Windsor High School, and personal caregiver.
Sherry Munger was born November 28, 1975. When Sherry was 10 months old, she got into a really bad car accident. She injured her legs and her feet. She was in foster care and was adopted into a family when she was 15. She has 4 siblings. Her childhood was very adventurous and she was a tomboy. Sherry played soccer and softball when she was younger. Miss Munger wanted to grow up to be a hairdresser or a singer. Sherry did not go to Windsor. She went to Old Saybrook High School in Tunbridge and graduated in 1995. She did not go to college when she was out of high school. Sherry has 1 child, Rachel Sheldon, who was born May 25, 2004. She is now 42 years old and has been in Windsor for 18 years. She came to Windsor because she needed a job and she thought Windsor was the nicest looking place to move to. Sherry works as a self-employed cleaner. She used to work as a nanny, retail in JCPenney, in grocery stores, and she worked in the military as a supply specialist. Miss Munger's hobbies are drawing, painting, playing guitar, sewing, and baking. Sherry said if she could change one thing about her life, it would be to make more money than she does right now. If she could have picked somewhere else to live, she said she would want to live in Hawaii because it is very tropical. The farthest Sherry has traveled to out of the USA was Kenya, Africa. Sherry is a very important person to the community because she is very welcoming and she's very sweet and kind-hearted to everyone she interacts with. I look up to Sherry and I think of her as family.
For this project, I decided to interview my grandmother, Kathy Deschamps. My grandmother was born on March 2nd, 1943. She moved to her house in Vermont on October 28th, 1978. This house is about 80 years old. She has lived here for 39 years with her husband, Dave Deschamps, my 2 aunts, my uncle, and my father. My grandmother and my grandfather decided to move into their house because it used to be a dairy farm, Montecito Farms. The house they moved into once belonged to the manager of the farm. My grandmother's first job in Vermont was at the ski area in Brownsville on the Scutney. After 1 year of working on the mountain, she got a job at Albert Bridge.
My father and his 3 siblings went to Albert Bridge School while my grandmother was also working there. It was only a 4-room schoolhouse at that time. She worked as a reading educator for 1 year. After that, she worked here at State Street School for 3 years, still as a reading educator in the reading lab. After those 3 years here, she got a new job and worked at a Mount Scottney Hospital in 1982. Her position was the executive assistant to the CEO. Her job also made a difference in Windsor. It provided plenty of jobs for people. She retired her job at the hospital in 2010. Now she volunteers to help raise money for new equipment. Interviewing my grandmother made me realize that she is an important face of Windsor.
Wendy was born in the year of 1974 and grew up in Plainfield, New Hampshire. Growing up in Plainfield means for high school, she was able to go Lebanon High School, and that's exactly what she did. After graduating from Lebanon in 1992, she went to college at University in New Hampshire. As a kid, through her school career, her absolute job was to be an athletic trainer for a professional team. But later, she decided that wasn't for her. When Wendy got out of college, she began work for Dartmouth Hospital as she did medical billing. After getting done with Dartmouth, she started her current job at Windsor School for subbing. She subs for all grades, and she works every day of the week, currently and is a very good substitute teacher. Her one story she shared with me was when she was in England, and she had to go to this very nice dinner, and she went to curl her hair, and her hair fell off with a curling iron.
Richard Zwicker is a writer and teacher here at Windsor High School. He has been a part of this community as a teacher for 16 years now. Mr. Zwicker has also published many short stories and novellas ranging from 1,000 to 6,000 words long. His most recent collection of short stories is called Walden Planet and Other Stories and is available on Amazon.com. When asked by a student why he keeps on publishing stories even though he does not get paid nearly as much as his teaching job, Zwicker replied, "I play volleyball and I don't get paid for that." I believe that sentence really shows a lot about Mr. Zwicker, who has gone above and beyond in his teaching often, introducing new English language arts electives for students. These include mythology, creative writing, children's literature, as well as science fiction and fantasy. His hobbies include playing volleyball, writing, and jogging. As an aspiring writer, Mr. Zwicker is a big inspiration to me as someone who has worked towards his goals and is constantly trying to improve. To end off, when I asked Mr. Zwicker how his students have inspired him, he said that they inspired him by showing him how hard writing can be for some people. And he thinks that that drives him forward. And this is why I believe that Mr. Zwicker is the face of the Windsor community.
Vincent Paul August Moykins is 18 years old and has lived in Windsor all his life. His hobbies include, but are not limited to, skiing, hiking, camping, watching movies, coding, and one of his biggest, flying. He has one sibling, Emmett Moykins, and has no pets. That is, unless you count his brother. Vincent does 3D printing, and 2 summers ago, he taught 3D printing at a summer camp in Chiswick, London. He's a self-employed app developer at AR Lucida. Vincent said that if there was one thing he could change about his life, it would be to jump into app development instead of being scared of failing. As of right now, he doesn't regret anything, but there's many more years to come. When Vincent goes to college, he plans on going to the Naval Academy in Annapolis. When he was a kid, he wanted to be a software engineer or a fighter pilot, and he still does. One story he has is from when he was 12. He had the opportunity to fly in a P-51 Mustang in a formation. If Vincent could live anywhere, it would be in a city, yet he does not know what city.
I did my interview on my Mimi. She is my mom's mom, and I chose her because she's a great person, and I know she'd have a lot to share. She's a 73-year-old, and her last job was at Mount Scottney Hospital until her retirement a few years ago. She is the mom of 7 kids who all are very different yet share the same blood. She has lived all over the place. She grew up in Cornish, New Hampshire in many different houses and now lives in Windsor, Vermont. And all of her kids stuck by besides one of them who lives in Texas, but she visits and makes sure to keep. The other 6 of her children live in Vermont or New Hampshire, so really not too far away. Her husband is named David Niffen, who is 1 year older than her, and to keep them company is their yellow lab Ginger. My Mimi loves to watch Judge Judy, Jeopardy, and The Price is Right. Of course, every time a race is on, she'll be sure to record it. She loves to spend time with her family, and normally she goes on walks to stay in shape. She loves to go out to her favorite and eat at her favorite restaurant, Ramonto's, but whenever she doesn't want to go there, she goes to McDonald's.
Patrick Allen is a 30-year-old man who works at Windsor High School and Albert Bridge School as PE teacher. He went to high school at Fall Mountain Regional School in Langdon, New Hampshire. He graduated in 2005. Straight out of high school, he went to Springfield College in St. Johnsbury, New Hampshire. He later transferred to New England College in Henniker, New Hampshire, because he wanted to pursue his dream of playing basketball. He found out that he did not like this college, so he decided to transfer back to Springfield College and got his PE degree. Today, he lives in Charleston, New Hampshire, with his wife and daughter. He wanted to work at Windsor because he heard that as a kid, Windsor had very good sports programs, especially basketball. He says that the opportunity to be a PE teacher and coach here would present itself, so he took the opportunity. His dream job as kids would be in the NBA because his favorite sport was always and still is basketball. He says that his height worked against him, but when he was in college, he realized that he was meant to be a PE teacher. He has been a part of the golf program here at Windsor for 4 years and 3 years in basketball program. His hobbies are golfing, basketball, and being a father because his daughter is a huge part of his life. He hopes that he receives a good education. He hopes that she receives a good education and good opportunities to play in any sport that she chooses. His one regret in his life is that he did not travel more because he started teaching. He lost his opportunity because he got a job right at high school. Other than that, he says his life is pretty good.
Mindy Lane is a 36-year-old Windsor resident. Her full name is Mindy Ann Lane and was born in her hometown of Phoenix, Arizona. In Arizona, she lived with her mom, dad, and her one sister. Mindy went to high school in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and later went on to college. Wittenberg University of Springfield, Ohio is the college that Mindy pursued to. She has been happily married to Tom Haushalter for 9 years. Mindy's extended family now lives in Minnesota, France, and Ohio. Mindy works at Dartmouth College and is a fundraiser for women's philanthropy. She has been in Windsor for 8 years now and loves the people. Some needs that she wanted when coming to Windsor were to live in a town with walking ability, live in a house that could easily access milk, and she didn't want to live in a super rural community. Mindy did have a little trouble adjusting to a small town from a big city, but now she really enjoys living in a small community. Some hobbies of Mindy's are reading, spending time with family and friends, being involved with the community, and taking part in Beauty Counter. Mindy loves taking part in the community of Windsor and is on the budget committee. She has been on other boards, but is not on one at the moment. If someone gave Mindy the chance to change anything in her life, she would not change a thing. One future goal Mindy has for herself is to run a foundation that gives money to people who lack it. If Mindy could describe herself in 3 words, they would be passionate, introverted, and thoughtful. One accomplishment she has is that she and her work have closed the gap between men and women and are bringing women's philanthropy to the next level. Something unique about Mindy is that she has a very bad memory and she has worked with senators about health laws. This is Mindy.
I interviewed Randy Rupp. He is 42 years old and has a wife and 2 kids named Elliot and Audrey. Some of the things he likes to do are listen to music, watch sports, and watch his kids play sports. He grew up in German, Pennsylvania, and went to high school there. When he got older, he wanted to be an accountant. He graduated from high school in 1993 and went straight to college. He went to Utica College in Utica, New York, and graduated in 1998. He moved to Windsor 11 years ago because it was halfway between his job and his wife's job, and he liked the town. He works at SCA. He is a regional program manager for the Northeast. He makes sure that all programs that run in the Northeast are safe in meeting their standards. He also works with partners and manages finances. He coaches, lives, volunteers, and used to be on the school board in Windsor. He would leave Windsor depending on jobs and kids in school, and it has to be someplace warmer. A thing he regrets in life is that he wishes he figured out more of what he wanted to do for a career. I chose to interview him because I thought that he was a big part of our community and does a lot of things for our community.
Jill Spencer White is a pillar of the Windsor community. She is the owner of Imageworks Studios on Main Street. She started working there in 1978 after graduating from New England Hairdressing School. Jill bought the business after working for the owner Maggie for 17 years. The business has moved between 4 locations in town, initially located on Main Street, moving to Price Chopper Plaza and then to River Street, and lastly staying back on Main Street where it has been in its current location for almost 20 years. She enjoys her daily walks in the morning almost the same time so she can see all the families bringing their kids to school. Mrs. White also enjoys doing crafts in her free time. She is happily married to her husband, Jeffrey Wright, who is a realtor from Vermont and New Hampshire and a longtime member of the Windsor Select Board. He loves to participate in town activities. Mrs. White has a stepson, Tyler, who lives in Florida, and a daughter, Riley, who lives with her and her husband. She is very proud to be the president of the Alumni Association for 10 years this year. Jill is very active in the community, never dreaming that she would be in so many groups to help the town. She was a graduate of the class of 1977 from Windsor High School. She said she thinks that Windsor is a wonderful area and is always kind and supportive to friends. Jill loves how her parents come out and support the community, and the kids have worked so hard to achieve the level of respect they deserve. She hopes that more and more students come to Windsor High School from outside towns. Jill is such a generous person and says if she won the mega bucks, she would donate $1 million to the town and the groups that participate in the community. Jill has a very positive attitude and outlook on the community in the town of Windsor.
Just before these guys take a seat, if we can give the entire 8th grade a big round of applause. And I was trying to think of a way to wrap it up, and I don't think I could say it as well as Molly did at the end of her piece. So I just wanted to share again what she wrote. And she was talking about her Susan Follansby. But she says, I know what you may be thinking. How is your neighbor a face of Windsor? She talks about seeing Susan around the town. I think, just as we can see anyone around this town that we go in. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest, and it was nice that wherever I went in town, I saw the people that I knew. I saw faces I was familiar with. She is a face of Windsor. You are a face of Windsor. We all are. Every single person in this room, in this town. Good people like Susan make up this friendly community. So next time you want to know why our faces of Windsor, who our faces of Windsor are, think of your friends, your family, your neighbors. Go downtown and look around. Who do you see? That's your answer. Windsor would be nothing without its people. And I think that sums it up perfectly. So thank you all for coming. The middle school, stay here.